Welcome back to r/NeighborsFromHell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors, and if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. This one is titled, "Neighbor repeatedly stole my parking spot I scaffolded his car in." So, my neighbor is not a very nice guy if I want to put it in a nice way. If I want to put it in an honest way, I would say that he is a complete douchebag. That might sound a little bit harsh, but before we get to the good part of the story, I wanna give a little backstory of this guy. We live in a complex of condominiums and we share a parking lot. Now, the parking does not come as part of the rental, so if you want a spot, you need to pay extra. I don't like dealing with street parking because this city is known for the lack of spots. Neighbor did not want to pay extra for reasons that I don't know, he simply might just not have the extra monthly funds to pay for it. Now, he likes to treat common areas as his own personal property. I have seen him throw a football party in the lot, and the next morning the ground was filled with litter and empty beer cans. None of the other neighbors really wanted to say anything to this guy, so I figured that I would be the one to do it. So, when I saw him one day, I ended up stopping him for a chat. Me, "Hey neighbor, I was wondering if I could talk to you for a minute." Neighbor, "Sure dude, what's up?" I think he might have been slightly drunk or on something. I decide to do it anyway. Me, "I noticed that you have been leaving a lot of garbage outside the buildings when you party. I was just wondering if you could make sure the people you invite clean up after themselves." Neighbor, "It is public space. It's not my job to make sure that the lot is cleaned." Me, "Well, it is not public property actually. It's part of the condominium and the people that park there pay for the lot and don't want to wake up in the morning." Neighbor, "Oh, I see what it really is. You think you're better than me because you can afford a spot. Stay out of my face, dude." He took this the wrong way and walked off before I could explain myself. The only thing this accomplished was for him to paint a huge target on my back. Suddenly everything negative that he had been doing was now directed at me. He would put trash in my bins and leave the cover off so the raccoons would make a huge mess in the morning. That was now my problem, and then I would find garbage specifically in my parking spot. That was when his antics went from annoying to infuriating. If you remember, I said that he opted for street parking. Well, that was not always the case. He would like to carefully take note of who was not going to be in their spot and borrow it. Sometimes this resulted in messing up and getting told off. He usually just left and went to another currently empty spot. Nobody reported him or wanted to take any action for it because you getting your spot stolen from a neighbor was just a sign of living in this area. And by the way guys, that's definitely not an area I would like to live in because it just reeks of entitled people. Anyway, now that I was his constant target though, my spot was now considered his spot to him. Every day without fail, he would be in my spot. I tried talking to him about it and it went about as well as anyone else trying to speak to him. Eventually he would avoid me altogether and I would have no choice but to go find parking on the street. Now, you might be asking at this point why we just didn't go to our landlord about all this crap that he had been pulling. Well, it turns out that the landlord was his uncle and he was not going to do anything about it. I had also threatened him with legal action and calling the cops on him. I really did not want to deal with that hassle and knew it was not a top priority for them. So I was left with only one option, which is revenge. For this I had a crazy idea that related to my job as a contractor. First, I had to do a little research to make sure everything I was doing was up to legal standards. So that night when I came home from work, I saw his car once again parked in my spot. So I parked in the street and got ready for my revenge. I had brought some stuff from work and began to make a scaffolding around his car. I made sure that it was totally in the lines of my spot and wasn't going to disturb the cars next to mine. It took almost until 3 AM, but what I was left with was a beautiful creation of scaffolding that surrounded his entire car. There was no way for him to get out without it being taken down, and it was strong enough that even him backing into it would not break it. It would have to be dismantled piece by piece. I was exhausted but woke up early the next morning to watch from my window him walking out of the building and seeing his car. His scream probably woke up half the residents, and that's the only thing I felt kind of guilty about. The laughter from my gut was beautiful though, as I saw him look up towards my window and motion for me to come down. I happily obliged and took my sweet time wandering down to him. "Neighbor, what the hell did you do to my car?" "Me, I didn't do anything to your car. It looks perfectly fine to me." "Neighbor, you surrounded it with this thing." "Oh yeah, I decided last night to build a scaffolding in my spot. Use it for some objects since I haven't been parking my car in there." "Neighbor, you cannot do that. It's meant for a car." "Actually, due to the laws, the spot is considered my property, and as long as it doesn't break any existing laws, I can do with it what I want." "Neighbor, I'm going to be late for work." "Me, I probably will be too, since someone has been making me park in the street even though I pay for this spot." I walk away with a smile on my face and him trying to figure out what he is going to do. I was not a complete monster though, and I left my tools there that can help take down enough of it for him to get his car down. Or free in this case. Without the years of experience though, it took him a couple of hours to finally get his car out of the spot and go to work. Apparently it was not his first warning and he almost got fired from missing a meeting. To anyone curious, I sadly don't know what kind of job this man has, and to be honest, I'm not sure if I want to know. Now, most stories in this vein of revenge tend to end a little more dramatically than this one. Maybe with him calling the cops or maybe even trying to get his uncle to evict me or something, but instead it actually served as a bit of a wake-up call and I got a knock on my door later that night from him. He apologized and told me that he was going to pay for his own spot from now on. He said that he realized he was being a jerk and getting away with things and taking his anger out on people that didn't deserve it. I was shocked that he apologized and actually accepted it, even though I know most would not agree that I should have. The scaffolding came down soon and I was able to park in my spot again. And I gotta say, Ripe Stars, that was a pretty genius act of revenge, if you might call it that. And I am glad that the neighbor learned his lesson, at least that's what it looks like. It does not always have to end in people getting evicted or arrested, that's why I found this story to be very enjoyable. Either way, if you enjoy the stories about crazy neighbors, then please don't forget to like the video if you want to support the channel. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is titled, "She Called the Police on My Dog." I have several rescued Dobermans, but the two needed for this story are Queen, who was severely abused and is now aggressive and super anxious, and Duke, my service dog for PTSD and a variety of other mental problems. So, because Queen is so aggressive whenever she goes outside, she has to wear a muzzle and is leashed to me just to make sure that she doesn't bolt, to monitor her mental health and to give lots of love and treats when she focuses on me and not people walking past my house. Helping her has honestly helped me a lot, and Duke is also fairly protective of us both. In a service dog way, he does body blocking where he puts himself between us and whatever is making us upset, which is relevant to the story. Because of this, we do get stares and whispers sometimes, but most people in my neighborhood know about Queen now. Most people, except for Entitled Mother and Nice Kid. Nice Kid is walking home from school and reaches his hand through the chain link fence holes to pet some of my other dogs. Because he is trespassing, Queen automatically gets aggressive and tries to lunge. Thankfully, she is a smaller Doberman and I am able to stop her and just quickly wave before bringing her inside. I come back outside and say hi, sorry about her. She was just scared. Nice Kid nods and asked about why she was scared, so I explained that her old owners were really mean and scary. I said it is like when you watch a scary movie and you are scared even after the movie ends. She's just trying to calm down, but it is taking her a while. I grab one of my dogs who is good with kids and bring him out to be petted by NK, and we talk a bit on how to properly approach dogs and to not stick our hands through other people's fences. He leaves and I think we're done, bring my dogs inside, give Queen her anti-anxiety medication before one more potty break before bed. While I am outside, NK is standing a bit away, while a woman, EM, is leaning against my fence and calling out, "Hey, hey you!" Because Queen was doing pretty good and seemed fairly unbothered. I walked closer but left several feet between me and the fence before giving a treat to Queen and asking what she needed. The conversation is paraphrased since it happened a while ago. EM, "My son says you're abusing this dog." She points to Queen. NK, "I said somebody else abused her and she is still scared." EM just waved her hand at him and continued. EM, "You need to give her to me and the rest of your dogs before I call the police on you for animal abuse." Me, "I'm sorry, but I'm not giving you my dogs and you can call the police if you want. But these are my dogs and I honestly had thought she was bluffing." EM started screaming, which is a big trigger for both me and Queen. "Hand them over." Queen does not lunge since nobody had come onto her territory yet, but she did start to press against my leg and was shaking so hard that I could see it. This is what she does before a breakdown, as I call them, where she basically goes blind and will attack anyone, including me and my other dogs. She had not had one in over a year though, so I didn't take much notice, but thankfully Duke did. EM kept screaming while Duke body blocked us both and was trying to lean against Queen for some pressure therapy. And also keeping his eyes on EM. He was trained to do this so I could feel safe enough to take my eyes off other people, but it can be unnerving. I understand that. EM apparently thought this was an attack stance. Duke is my biggest boy, and if you don't know what an attack stance truly is, it can sometimes look like a dog just standing tall who is ready to attack. And so she whipped out her phone and called 911, saying something along the lines of an aggressive dog was attacking her and her son. I sent my dogs, who actually listen, inside while I stayed put, too afraid that EM would climb my fence, and put some distance between me and the fence and brought Queen with me. She was still heavily shaking, and when I crouched down and tried to pet her to calm her down, she snapped at me. I stumbled back, landed on my butt, and Queen had her hackles raised, looking blankly ahead. I tried to talk to her calmly and softly, but EM is still screaming. Now about how I am attacked and to hurry. The rest was a mess. The police arrived and I basically had to cover Queen while she struggled and smashed her muzzle into me, trying to bite me to make sure they wouldn't do anything, while I also cried, which freaked Duke out as he ran around us in circles trying to figure out what to do. Eventually though, the police told me to bring my dogs inside and to come out and talk. Duke refused to leave my side, so I put his harness on and brought his papers for proof just in case. I bring them everywhere to be honest, and we both went outside. I was able to produce Queen's papers and even called my vet for proof that she is a scared dog, not an aggressive dog, and my vet even explained some of her treatment plan to them all. By the end of it, myself, Queen, and I'm pretty sure Duke as well, not to mention my other dogs, were all so emotionally drained, we just went to bed and I called in late to work for the next day. Several of my neighbors have told me that they gave their own statements to the police about my dogs and Queen, and thankfully we have a few security cameras that can sort of view my yard, and the police have since dropped the case. I saw Nice Kid today, which is why I thought of this story. He slid a note under my fence that said he is sorry, with a few drawings of my dogs and me. It was very cute and sweet. I hope he is okay though. He looked really scared when I more or less flung myself over Queen while she had a breakdown. The next one is titled Entitled Neighbor. So, this incident happened a few days ago. For some background information, I live in a 3-story building. The first floor is occupied by our family friend. My dad and him have been best friends since their college days. So I have pretty much known them my entire life. We occupy the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor has been occupied by another family. Recently, the 1st floor family decided to take a trip up north for about 10 days. So when either of our families are out, we tend to take in their parcels and other small stuff. Before the downstairs family left, they instructed us to take in any parcels from Amazon on behalf of them. Now, both my parents work and I had to go to college, so when the parcel arrived, the only person there to receive them was my grandma. Apparently the lady downstairs ordered a bunch of stuff and chose to pay COD. My grandma at that moment did not have enough cash to pay for the stuff, so the delivery person had to take it back with them. When the lady got a call about the unreceived parcel, she called my mother and asked her about it. When my mom narrated what had happened, she simply insisted that my mother should stay at home and receive her stuff the following day. Now, coming to the other part, every month we call in a person to clean our cars because they tend to get very dirty riding through the muddy country roads. So when the family were on their trip, I had called a bunch of people to professionally clean our car. When the family returned back from the trip, they noticed that our car looked cleaner than theirs. That evening, she called me out and demanded why I had not gotten their car cleaned when we had gotten ours done. When I simply stated how I was never informed that they would have also liked to have their car cleaned, mind you, we usually call them on the same day every month, and the lady flipped at that and screamed. How that was a basic sense and that she had a very important conference the next day for which she needed to take the car out. I asked her if it were that important, she should have at least bothered to inform me or not gone to the trip and taken care of it. She has been giving my mom and me a cold shoulder ever since and demands that we apologize. And Ripe Stars, I'm curious, do you usually take packages for your neighbor? And if so, have you ever had any negative or positive experiences with that? Where I come from in Europe, it is usually pretty normal to take packages for your neighbor, at least if you know your neighbor. However, I've heard that in some parts of the United States, it is not so common to actually do that. Let us know about your experience with that in the comments. And Ripe Stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional Ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support and I hope to see you again tomorrow.